Hello there, Drew Hanish of Whiskey Lore, and it's time for another whiskey tasting. And today, I'm going to be doing a tasting of Frey Ranch, and this is a first batch. This is batch number 1 of their straight bourbon whiskey. And a year ago, if you want to go back and look through the archives, I did an interview with Colby and Ashley Frey from Frey Ranch, and we did a whole overview of their historic farm, and really was the first chance I had to dive in and talk to somebody who is a farmer who is now distilling and learning about different ways that they are taking care of their grains, how they're malting their grains, and so on. And so this has been a whiskey that I have been kind of watching from afar ever since I did the interview, and I've been interested to know how these guys are progressing. Now they're trying some different styles. I've seen a rye out there. I've seen higher proof versions of this whiskey. This is at 45% alcohol by volume, and there have been subsequent batches of this whiskey. This is batch number 1. So they started distilling in 2015. I got this bottle in 2021. It's probably somewhere between 4.5 to 5.5 years old, I would imagine. And as I went through Ireland, I asked a lot of different distillers who were doing their first runs or were close to doing their first runs about their opinions about batch 1. And most of them said, you know, you're learning during that time period, you're putting the stills through its paces, so it may not be your best whiskey. It's something that's kind of to get you going. And so when you go into a distillery and you see that first cask that distilleries always seem to like to highlight, know that the whiskey inside is probably not the best whiskey that they make, but it is a whiskey that is just historic because of when it actually ran through the stills. And so buyer, I would suggest, if you're going to buy a bottle from that original cask, it's probably more of a showpiece than something that you're going to drink, because you probably buy a newer bottle of that whiskey and it would be better because of experience in the distiller. And this is just opinion, and an opinion that's coming from some of the people who are actually making the whiskey. So interesting to know. But this is batch 1. It's been a year. It's had plenty of time to oxidize in that bottle, and so I'm going to jump back in, do a tasting, and see. It was better than the neck pour on the second tasting after air got in the bottle. What happens now that it has been sitting there with air in the bottle for a year and I haven't used any kind of wine preserver or anything like that to knock the air out of it? So on the nose, I am immediately hit with oak. It is the predominant note in there. I get a little bit of a herbal character to it, a little herbally rye, maybe a little leather note. This is a bourbon that is 66.6% corn. It is 11.4% rye and 10% wheat, and then 12% malted barley. So this is actually a 4-grain bourbon. And Colby said that he feels like wheat really kind of gives it the mouthfeel. Cheers. This is a whiskey to put on the sides of your tongue. At least in my case, everybody's palate's going to be different. But when I let this roll down to the sides of my tongue, I get a wonderful butterscotch, caramel kind of a taste that comes through. On top of the palate, I feel like I'm getting a little bit more of the rye, and it's a little dry, herbally kind of a rye note coming through on this whiskey. There's a little lemon, little grain coming through. Still the nuttiness from that oak is coming through as well. The thing about this is that I think the nose is a little bit one-dimensional because the oak really takes over heavily. But once it hits your palate, especially if you work it around your mouth, you get some really nice flavors in there. I'm even getting a little mint coming in here on this, on the finish. Some earthiness to the rye. Nice clean distillate. They know what they're doing in terms of distilling a whiskey. I think if I changed anything about this whiskey, it would be I would want to taste more of the farm and a little less of the barrel. But it's not overbearing. It's actually somewhat balanced out. So I'm not overly critical of that. I think especially being your first batch that you release to the public, this is an impressive whiskey that makes me think batch 2, batch 3, and so on are just going to get better because of experience. And so for a first effort, I am definitely in the good category on this one personally. If you're an oak fan, you might like it even more because there's a little bit more of that oak character that I am not personally in love with, especially when I'm tasting a whiskey that is coming from a farm where he's doing all of his own grains, he's malting his own grains, he's growing his own grains. I want to taste more of that farm. And so I don't know where the change comes in that, but hopefully in subsequent batches we're going to get more of the personality of that farm. It's there, but I think that being called Frey Ranch, I want to taste Frey Ranch. I want to get that experience of what do those grains taste like. So awesome first batch here, and I am looking forward to tasting some stuff in the future. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please give me a like and subscribe if you'd like to watch more of these. Ring the bell if you want to be alerted as soon as these come out to you, and leave some comments because I love the comments and happy to chat back and forth with you or talk about whether you've enjoyed this whiskey and if your opinion is different from mine. Until next time, cheers and Slanjava. Rye and butterscotch. It does not seem like that would be an exceptional combination. It's a little awkward, but it actually works. It actually works.